Hello, my loves, and welcome to December's energy update for 2002. I can hardly believe that I'm saying it's December already. I don't know where this year has gone, and I know many of you feel the same. So how was November? How did it treat you? How are you faring? How are you feeling? And yeah, how are we going to tie up this year? Um, I have to say that I am really enjoying the shift in energy and pace that has come in the last couple of weeks. What's felt like quite a slow burn through autumn. All of a sudden, it feels like we have a lot more buoyancy and play and magic in the air. And I think that's in part Christmas, but I also think it's part of this transition and this shift that we are entering into that will see us long into 2023. So, what have I got to say on it? Well, it feels like for many of us, 2022 was a bit of a flowing with the universe boot camp, in as much as lots of us were really going back and taking a look at some really foundational things, i.e., trust, i.e., safety, and really holding the magnifying glass up to the relationship to ourselves, to our bodies, and to the world. And just really holding a mirror up to those blind spots, those shadows, those parts of us where we give our power away and where we allow something on the external to really dictate our inner balance, our connection to self, our creativity. And although that seems like it will be a continuation of the theme, there is this introduction of play, and the focus is really shifting from healing and that uh, inner outlook, if you like. And it really feels like December is a wonderful opportunity to graduate and also integrate all of those healings, all the newness of our being and awareness, and really choose and decide about how we're going to take that out into the world now. And as I say, that playfulness, that humor, and joy, really, and inspiration really feels like it's very much in the air and to play with. And just as I was, tuning into the energies, it felt like this month is a bit of a show preview to what 2023 has in store for us. So there's definitely been a change in pace, and I definitely feel that's going to continue through December, particularly these first couple of weeks. And I've had a couple of messages from people when that shift first came in that they felt incredibly anxious. And it was something I was aware of within my own system. And the point that I arrived at was that, one, this anxiety is literally just my body moving from like second gear to fourth gear very quickly, and feeling that energy move through at a quicker pace. And of course, that can be very reminiscent to the perhaps more physical bodily symptoms that we experience with anxiety. But, I checked in, there wasn't anything major going on. I affirmed to my body that I was safe. And, actually underneath it was a lot of excitement because I was sensing this expansion and inspiration of energy that I was now able to play in. And for me, it's really felt like I've had a couple of years where I've just been in the void, in the in-between land of knowing something's coming, but really just waiting and doing lots of resting and integration and stuff. So for me, it was, real excitement. But I did definitely have to check in and be like, oh, this is a new feeling that I've not felt for a long time. What is that? And also the change that is coming is something that we sense long before, like our human faculties are like, oh my God, this is change. We know that this period of time has been coming, and you know we are getting better at dealing with change and moving through change. But of course, it's going to make us just a bit, what am I doing here? Because it's the unknown. And, just to kind of frame just what an opportunity and just how pivotal this energy is at the moment, the image I got was that, as we move through the eclipse, we were really consolidating and locking in timelines as we shed all layers. And it's almost like we've boarded the train and that train has set off. And actually, now we're just realizing that we're on the train. And the thing is, we can't get off. And we're not getting off, not at the end of December, maybe not even at the end of January or February. This train is moving. And anything that we are still, like just tying up those real last loose ends, it is going to become so apparent and so clear, because this train is moving and those things are staying in the past. So, I do expect for some of us that we might have some last minute curveballs, and rose tinted glasses off and being like, oh my God, I can see this so clearly. But it's really not going to jar us in the same way, because for the last few months we've really been doing this preparation, and our higher selves have been guiding us to this point where it's like, okay, there's no more resistance now. There might be a little bit, but actually I understand that the momentum that's leading me forward is so much greater. So I hope that makes sense. And just on the train analogy, just whilst I just peek down at my notes, is that's not to say that the destination is fixed, and that timeline is completely locked in. We can definitely make decisions along the way that's going to alter that course. And it really feels like something that is a very good practice for this month is this process of refining and really focusing, and of course that generally happens at the end of the year, because we go through this period of reflection and then also sowing new seeds for the next year. But I want to offer this to you in a much more practical way, because there's a lot more external things working against us at the moment and I say this boldly, but to deliberately try and stop the collective from rising. And it is those distractions that you need to be really aware of, and just keeping it on a very, very simple level. I'm going to offer you the 3 C's, which is complaining, criticizing, and comparison. And how, along with the other really low vibrational thoughts and stories and beliefs and, all the things that are chaotic around us and are very noisy. Those 3 C's that I've just given you are all things that we need to actively choose a way out of or something different. And what I've learned from really moving away from those 3 C's and just, really recognizing how they rob my energy and my focus and, just make me feel pretty crap, right? Is just actually how much more I am able to, one, be connected to myself, what I am able to give and put out in a very unfiltered but heart-led way, where I'm not really second guessing what anybody thinks of me or even really taking much notice of what anyone else is doing. I'm just moving in the moment in a very honest way. And complaining just really robs us of our power and our creatorship, because we're just constantly rehashing what we don't want, when actually that's the biggest lie and the biggest secret of it all, is that we are so powerful and we're creating all the time. And this is what this elevation is really leading us towards. I've spoken about this before, but it's this individualization and the rising voice of the collective. So in terms of how we each individually express ourselves, our gifts, our soul voice to the world, and just how we are just going to live and create in more states of being. It's very difficult to kind of go into this all in just an energy report, and I'm sure I will talk more about it, but that's really echoed by the influx of light and heart energy that's really hitting Earth at the moment. There will be lots of gifts and activations, if you like, and clarity and a deepening of our senses for many of us. And again, that really comes from the inner work that we've been doing with our relationship to ourselves, because although the collective is ascending, in order for that to happen, each of us needs to descend into our body, because our body is the vehicle for the human experience, for the soul. And it's also what holds our gifts. So just as a practice to support you through this month, it is so important to be grounding and really anchoring and taking moments to pause and as a check-in, but also just to appreciate. Because I was talking to someone, I think it was just the other night, and she was explaining how she really just feels both ends of the spectrum at the moment. She's super happy, super happy, but she's also just crying at the drop of the hat. And it's a lot of us have been dwelling down in those really deep, heavy emotions. But I always think of it as like a bit of a bandwidth. I'll do it this way, so if we're not feeling that steady, we can only really hold quite a small spectrum of emotions. But as we move through that and we start to clear space and make space in our system, so we have a deepening of spectrum. But of course, we don't know one without the other. And that really is the gift of the human experience, is feeling, knowing, and experiencing it all. So yes, that grounding, particularly if you're feeling quite overwhelmed with how your senses and how much you're feeling everything and everyone, I guess. And making sure that you actively choose time to pause or take time out. Christmas can be a time of lots of obligations and people pleasing, and in that sense it can be quite difficult to navigate, particularly amongst families and that kind of thing. But this really is the integration in practice around all the work that you've just been doing, but around your relationship to yourself. And a word that keeps coming to me over and over that is just so important for this time is nurture, and how we nurture different things within us, like trust, like safety. No one's going to provide that for us. It has to come from within. And that really is about, the small promises that you make to yourself each day, the connection to yourself, how much you are able to really hold, listen, and honor what you feel, regardless of how that might be received on the outside. It's a very tricky initiation because it is so wrapped up in inner child wounds and trauma. But if it's been in your awareness and you have the knowledge and all the things up here, now is the time to really start practicing and implementing and integrating that in your life. Because when we do that, the expansion and how that ripples out is just, it's just so big. Super, super big. What else? So, I also see that for some of us, particularly after solstice, I feel that the tiredness and the fatigue and the exhaustion and maybe even the just sheer frustration of this year, and also what's gone on for the last 2 years, it's gonna start feeling like it's catching up. So if you're listening to this and you know that you have been ignoring some of those warning signs, it's not too late to do something about it now. But December, you're gonna feel that quite heavily. And the reason for this is because sometimes people have to get to their wits' ends. They have to reach rock bottom. And what I see is that the accumulation of all of those energies just like bottoming out at the end of the year is really going to be the catalyst and the fuel for the rise in the new year, where some really, really solid choices and changes that have been needing to have been made for quite a long time, that energy has got to come up a bit like a volcano. And as we know, sometimes when the energy rises, it can come up a bit wonky and can be a bit volatile, because actually, I know this from my own experience, and when I start to feel trapped and suffocated and backed in a corner, my default is that I want to start tearing shit down. And as a bystander, that can be really difficult because it seems like, these people are just like flicking with the self-destruct button. But as much as you can give space and hold compassion and, redirect them to their own internal guidance around what they need and support them in honoring that need, because it's a funny old thing for us, in as much as, most of us are not very good at asking for what we want. um and just for those people who perhaps recognize in that moment, oh my god, like, I'm gonna blow and I need to make some big changes, it's not to be afraid of that choice that you're presented with. And it's really to look at what you're feeling and use that as guidance and as way showers in terms of the direction that you want to move in. And just do that in a very intentional, conscious way if you can. Um, there is nothing that you need to figure out and have an action plan and, have it all sussed. You can just immediately take that pressure off, but it really is about, how the daily small things really do amount to the bigger things. And in fact, if you visit our website, there is a great journal prompt on there called 10% Gains, which gives you some nice ideas to get started and to make that process firstly successful, because it really removes the resistance and the pressure that we put on ourselves to, completely tackle everything all in one go. And yeah, it takes out the guesswork. And I just remind you, that you're your own best medicine, and you know what's right, and you also know what you need. And the thing is, you've always known. You just haven't given yourself permission to do the thing yet. Okay, so yeah, that's all I really want to say on that one. In fact, I think that's all I really want to say on December. Yeah, I just, all in all, I think it's a very exciting, buoyant month. There is a very, very high trajectory for the next few months at least. And yeah, that momentum is really going to carry you. So, just remember to have fun and just see where it takes you. Okay, my loves. Yeah, I think that's it for today. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye.